All right, good day, colleagues. Ngithanda kubingelela bonke labakhona namuhla ku-webinar yethu. As you all have been told prior to this event, kokuthi namuhla we'll be hosting our first Asakheni Ubuntu webinar. And we would like to welcome to our list of panelists, Khanyi Lukele from the Ministry of Health. She is working closely with key populations, which are the people established discuss with regards to gender-based violence. And also in our midst, we have David Masego, who is a representative of the KPs La Nzabeni daga epic lapho khona sesikhuluma sithi asakheni ubumnyalo kule program lena lesi nayo. And we are we also going to be having shortly among us Nozipho Mota, who is also going to be discussing one of the major subjects la khona kule webinar namuhla. I would like to have everyone know that we are live on Facebook as siyenda le webinar la. So please be well aware of that as well. We have a huge following on our social media pages. So kuqala lengakhohlwa futhi nikusho umlingani wetfu lomunye lesinaye la lekungiwandile gama, our social support officer under the project and KPI program la ku Asakheni Ubuntu. So what's going to happen now, I would like to pose a few questions to our panelists at Fula Corner. The first question that I will have is for Khanyi, Magi Khanyi from the Ministry of Health. What is the perception with regards to gender-based violence generally? Umasibuka from the general population down to key populations, yini norms lakhona, and ngekubuka kwebantfu lasakasebenta nabo yena Magi Khanyi, ngabe uyayukhanze kokuthi bantfu bathi yini gender-based violence, bacabanga ukuthi yini, is it a way of social norms, noma is it a culture, or is it a pandemic as it has been declared? Kumsebenzi lo wendile Magi Khanyi, over to you.
Thank you, Sakile, for that question. I think when you talk about gender-based violence, most people believe they think of violence in the form of beating one. And they always think when you talk about GBV, it is violence against women. Yet violence is violence, irrespective whether it is directed to women or men. We all experience violence, and GBV can present in different forms. There can be physical violence, emotional violence, financial violence, but the perception is that when we talk about GBV, we are talking about assault, and usually it is assault against women, when that is not the case.
For bringing us Leo clarity, Leo, in as far as GPV is concerned, it is not just the form of only women being beaten, but it is actually indzaba le broad. Lena indzaba le broad ke ibe ingagcini khona lapho kuphela. I do understand that among us we also have our PSS officer, our psychosocial officer lekungwandile Gama. Mr. Gama, as a psychosocial officer, can you please partially just refer to us kokuthi engabe masikhuluma ngendaba tabo emotional abuse or na khona lapho sike sakhuluma ngayo ni gender based violence, does it not only have to be physical, because we understand that there's many forms of violence, but ke kulamalanga sibuka ikakhulu kati nathi tindzaba tabo emotional violence ukuthi engabe wena what would you have to say nge emotional violence in your own perspective and professional opinion? Mr. Kama?
Hello.
My connecting, is this a connection issue?
Hello, Mas Lalila.
Yes, but
thank you, Mr. Lalila, for that question, and thank you for welcoming us. Hello, Mr. Mas Lalila. Hello.
Yes, Putti, I can still hear you, Mr. Kam. Yes, hello.
Okay, good. I was just saying thank you for welcoming us into this webinar. And with regards, yes, Budi, and with regards, hello, and with regards to your question, according to my professional experience, the gender-based violence harbors a lot of facets under it. So, and one of those is emotional abuse. So with emotional abuse, these are the things whereby when they are done, they impact us on our emotional aspects. So they come in a form of insults, and then they come in a form of humiliation, and then people are made to be afraid. So and then they then cause other things like discrimination, stigma, uh, amongst other things. So uh, that is what I can say, Mr. Mashalela.
No, siyabonga kakhulu lapho kumbhokane describing to us ukuthi engabe that, and when it comes to GBV, lama forms of abuse. Among others, we also have economic abuse. Lapho khona uthola ukuthi mhlambe abantu bahlukubeteka ngekwemali noma ngekusebenza sort of. But since I am not a professional when it comes to issues of gender-based violence, I would like to throw lona mbuto to the floor to say ukuthi ngabe yes isikhanye makabuka economic violence ucabanga ukuthi i-violence le kanjani ngiluphi ihlobo layo nawe lapho Mr. Gama mangabe khona lokho ngethi ihlobo ikakhulukati nge-economic violence kuyaye kube violence le kanjani sifika kanjani na partner wami noma nebamvu lengiphilisana nabo ekuthenini sithi lelu hlobo leli abuse ke seyona sekuyi-economic violence. If the floor can maybe just share with me on that, Goguti, what is it exactly that we refer to when we speak of economic violence? Noma bekufuna ngitikhombele mhlambe nge-understanding yakho make khanye what exactly do you understand when it comes to economic violence? Is it one that is maybe a typical type of violence among the key populations that you work with, or are there other forms, and how do they perceive it to be?
Okay, thank you, Mahlalela. I would define it as preying on someone's economic status. Ngibekise nje ngokuthi when you realize that someone is economically disadvantaged, and then you manipulate that person ukuthi utothola whatever that you want from that person because you are using le masela le mali, that is a violence. Of course, it can come in different forms. Ikhona lokuthi you can see this person is looking for a job, and then you manipulate that individual into doing things for you because you wanna le economic status yakhe ukuthi vele weswele, so we are manipulator. But it can also come another form where the person lo nemali naye gets manipulated into doing things for you just because kukhona la kutholako la kuwe. Ngabekisa nje ukuthi when you are in a relationship, a relationship ifanele ukuthi ibe important both ways, but you find that the partner lo maybe lo munye utosebenzisa the other partner just to control uma finances zakhe. Ngabekisa most of the time in cases of women ukhanza ukuthi njengababe lento ema decisions elikhaya nguye lo decide ukuthi mawuhola this is what you need to do with your salary, but bese nase kufika ngakuye akwendeki lokho ukuthi athi buya sihlale phansi decide ukuthi what can we do nyalo seyami salary yabona. Ngibeyise nje ukuthi labanye abantu ba believe ukuthi as a woman or as a partner the dominant partner in utothi when you get a salary funa unikete mina card lakho or a certain share of of money from your account for me to do this and that and that. But yena abe angakwendi lokho. So kwenza ukuthi uyam-exploiter the other partner because yena more dominant in the relationship. Of course, akwendeki kuma heterosexual couples kuphela, kuyendeka even among same-sex partners, where ukhanza ukuthi the partner lo khona ngokwenta ama-decisions, or the dominant partner lo wenta ama-decisions, nguye lo decide ukuthi this is what you need to do, without putting into considerations ama-feeling the other partner ukuthi yena bekafuna kwenta ini. Ngabekisa ukuthi nawusebenta, we all have dreams. There are things you want to do ngemali yakho, but ukhanza ukuthi the other partner decidela ukuthi this is what you need to do. So kuyendeka, it's not only kuma heterosexual couples kuphela, even amongst same-sex partners.
Now, thank you so much, Magekhanyi, for leyo mpendulo leyo. Ngicabanga ukuthi it was actually much needed. Before we move on with our conversation on this webinar today, I would like to acknowledge the presence of CC Nozipho Wagamotsa, who is actually the gender-based violence coordinator yethu lapha kaNgwane. We welcome you, Sis Nozipho, noma sosikhanda nje sesike sathi kuyikhuluma indzaba ye-gender-based violence. Also, we have included issues of emotional violence. But we were posing a question to Magekhanyi from the Ministry of Health. What are the perceptions of economical violence? Are the people out there aware of economic abuse? From your professional opinion, emotional abuse, economic abuse, and are people who are victims of this kind of abuse even aware that they are victims of a certain type of abuse?
As I've been introduced, I'm Nozipho Promoter from the Ministry of Health. So I coordinate the health sector response to GBV as opposed to the overall GBV in the country. So in the GBV sector, I just represent the health sector PEL. I think I came in right around the time when Kanye was making input or discussions around economic abuse. Economic abuse is very complex. And when you look into it, you need to appreciate a number of things. You need to appreciate what is the economic value of the person looking into what they're going to benefit from one person. You need to look into the upbringing, per individual, what influenced them, what has not influenced them. You need to look into people's self-esteem. Self-esteem as a person growing up, because if you have a person that has grown up with a limited self-esteem and never been had a recognition in their families, when they encounter power that has finances, abilities, and status or economy, they're most likely to exercise their value using that muscle of economy. And then now that because they're now exercising that, they're feeling valued, they're going to manipulate the situation into finding somebody who's going to be vulnerable enough to be absorbed in their systems. I'll take, for instance, because we tend to look at it as GBV is more of like men violating women. I'll make an example. If you know, Uti, you are in a relationship with a certain individual, and then for some reason, whenever you need something, you always go to your partner. Barely a monthly relationship or a weekly relationship, you are now asking, a time, can I have bus fare? Can you buy me a phone? Can you do my hair? A man is not an escape from poverty. My poverty is my poverty. And if I'm a man that is now financially able, and coming from a background of poor self-esteem and limited recognition because I wasn't anybody, when I give you that money, I immediately identify you as an asset, as a subject, as a property, not a human being. And without looking into how much you're digging yourself into, in no time you will be finding yourself in a situation. If it's not emotional abuse, it's going to be physical abuse. And some people who are actually learned will actually take you to task even legally. I know what many people are not aware of. Uthola boyfriend akufakele airtime and ungamshayeli it's classified as theft under false pretense. Ucela boyfriend akuthumelele ibus fare ungayisebenzisi. It's classified as theft under false pretense because you pretended to want something. So it's not just a one-sided situation of abuse. Similar, getting into a relationship, nekuga like me, because you feel like she's financially muscled. Obviously, I'm going to look into the missed opportunities that I had while I was striving economically to empower myself, academically, professionally, whatever you name it. I'm not going to find people on my level who want to compensate me as men. They're going to look at me professionally and say, that woman has achieved, that woman has money, that woman stays. So I am going to attract the people who need my money. And when it gets into the relationship, the abuse will be, I am buying you food, I am giving you my money, I'm housing you, I'm feeding you. So you must do as I say. This is from a woman. Understand? So economic in the perceptions around economic abuse, you need to look at it in both angles. Who's the abuser and who's the recipient of the situation? Because if one end is economically using the muscle, then you must factor in a social upbringing. You must factor in economical factors that have made the person feel like at that level I need to compensate. Economic abuse is more often compensation than as ngathini. It's more of a compensatory response to a personal feel of ongoing abuse that I had been exposed to, including lowered self-esteem.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Sisi Nozi Paula, for that broad discussion on economic abuse. Buka nje thina besingathi ukuthi, it is classified under false pretense if I give my partner money to come visit me and she doesn't use it as password to come visit me, or if I buy her data and she doesn't text back, or if I fakela airtime angasashayeli. Because you really wonder in these relationships, you always sending people airtime, you send them airtime and still call them. We are being abused. We are being abused, Mr. Kamalapa. I hope you are well aware that people are abusing us. We are in need of your psychosocial support services because we find ourselves depressed. We are under budgeting, or we have spent up above our budget because we are feeding into our perpetrators' pockets. So, angathi ukuthi ingabe as a key population representative, Mr. David Masego, is it the case with key populations? Do the cases differ? And what exactly entails when it comes to now being a key population? Do they also face, key populations, they face the same kinds of abuses as lapho khona uthola ukuthi a certain key population member will have to now send money to their partner only to find that the partner does not show up at the door as a transport money sekishiwe noma sofakele airtime akasashayi, sofakele data then they're not texting back. Is that the same case? What has been your experience so far?
All right, thank you so much, Sakida, and morning, good afternoon, colleagues. I think a lot has been said, and I'm happy that Nozipo is here and she has elaborated more on some of these issues. In fact, to our community, I think we're left behind in terms of gender-based violence, in terms of abuse. We have taken some of the issues of abuse as a norm, as something that is normal. We have taken things that are not normal to make them normal. For an example, when you talk about the issues of economic abuse, so at some point you feel like it's normal, like all boys do that, like not just for MSM, and it even relates to some of the female sex workers, because some female sex workers, they want to belong, they want to have partners, and as much as they are having their bodies for an material exchange, but at some point they want to belong somewhere. They want to have that boy that will say, I'm for Dave, I'm for Cindy, I'm for whatsoever. So for that reason, you find themselves then having compensating. Like at some point, there is some people who could be, you think, I'm trying to convince him to see that I love him. At some point, you start sending those airtime monies, those transport monies, and you'll be amazed. You'll send someone from local Like local fees, we know that they are so cheap. But you're going to have someone saying, give me 100 rand, I'll come. Once we know it's not even 100 rand, it's only 15 bucks for one to move from an area to another. It's 750 and 750, that's 15 bucks locally. But you're going to start giving out that 100 in Malangeni. And mind you, if someone doesn't come, and at least now that we know, these are things that we need to start talking about, even within our small group sessions. We need to start advocating. People need to know that we are abused financially. This should be addressed. And there's a lot of we are talking about even violence. We've seen violence amongst MSM, Nozipo, and Kanye, whereby people even say, "Oh, my boyfriend, he's a hard man. We are shy." And it's like it's a normal thing when someone give you a clap. Like, David, don't go. Why clapping? Why a mall? Then there's a clap. It's normal when someone starts abusing you within the MSM community. Whilst those things need to be addressed, I'm happy that we've got this campaign to speak to these issues. And we are for this idea. We need to report these issues now. But the challenge is now how is it normal to stand up as David and start reporting Spiso or like Spiso is abusing me emotionally. Spiso has taken my 200 last week, and like to be honest, there's this thing called budgeting, and once you start speaking about budgeting amongst key populations, like you're speaking about some dream that might come through sometime next year, because there are these issues of my boy might need this, my boy might need that. I was talking to one MSM a week or so ago. He was telling me that my boyfriend wants a techie for 800, a sneaker for 800. And I'm saying, do you have a sneaker for 800? That no, I don't have. And do you think it's normal someone to demand, and is demanding, I want the sneaker on the 25th? It's a demand. So it's these things that we need to start talking about. I'm happy to pick up the discussion. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much, David Master. Thank you so much, David. Angati, Sisnozipo wants to cut in on the issue that David has just delivered.
Yes, I wanted to say to David, it's not just hip-hop's affected only, David. It's even the general population, because you need to understand economic abuse. You need to understand the diversity of the society you live in, and understand what are the attributes that gets people into economic abuse. I've mentioned socialization. How were you brought up as a person? What's the value system? What's the recognition within your family or your society that made you feel? If you look at how we grew up, I used to say, a degree, I'll be able to tell servant, I'll be able to flat, because I had been taught by my own father, so I wanted to get out of the system of control, which is my voice is useless, because so I wanted to have that makes me say, so how's that upbringing has influenced me is so I make my decision what I buy. And then it comes to my economic issues. Some people come from relationships, some poor background. Really, they need the money. And the more you need the money, the most likely you are going to sell yourself even short. Even when you know this relationship is not making sense. But because somebody is giving you money every month, it is going to make sense at that point in time until you feel sekhlelila. And the moment you figure it's when and then it's when physical abuse comes in. And then there's peer pressure issues. Peer pressure issues. David nakanyisile. Njolana bani. Ufuna kuqanga sibebe ungazange uthenge liteki. Utawugibela njani lo sibebe ungazange sowuthenge liteki. Awuzange sowujime. Uhefutela ungafika indzawo, but because bangani bakho baletulu, noma sowufeyinta noma sowuva ukuthi yathi angisana oxygen. Wena solo ufuna nangiya sibebe. Sibebe unebanikati bawo, sibebe uyajimelwa. And then like David was saying, budgeting. You don't budget. And when yakho imali sewuhlala ngema-debts, ngiboleka kusibani ngithenge i-Nike yasifiso, ngiboleka kubani ngithengele ipendi yakhayinsile. It's putting you in a financial constraint. Eventually, you will burst out. And when you start bursting out, you will eventually have either emotional abuse, if not physical abuse. And then academic and professional growth. Ngifuna kuba ngu-Dr. Banban. Then you forget to leave. By the time now you have to live with other people, so ukhuka, so ufuna labafana labatawumukela imali yakho. Wandile will attest to this when he talks about emotional abuse. So ufuna labantu labatawumukela, and you're not factoring in ukuthi uthole bani, because we have people with behavioral disorders. Utayithola le narcissist that knows how to calculate getting into your system. Then the need of belonging. Hip hops are the most affected, and the young people. They need to belong. They want to belong. They want to be loved. And because we're living in a society where all those things, hip hop, sex worker, it's hidden. I am going to find value to somebody who gives me something. I am going to give somebody imali nchongide, because if anxious that's the identity. You are a small community. You're very intersected within that community. And Magashia David, she has feel so we are Gwandil. Who wants to see boyfriend like I Gwandil? Because it's like you're in high school. Your society is so small, it's like you are in high school, no, okay, not just literally high school, but you're in this small community. Mokhumbula mangabe use high school, mawale boyfriend wakho ka form 5, so mbona chula nivambatana ka form 4. It really felt. So you do by all means compete nalo girlfriend lo ka form 4 kuze abuye la kuwe ka form 1 lo guy. And utawubuya njani? Utawubuya ngale tikugenzako, banjwa ngale tikudlako. So those are the other things. So you need to know what is the trigger for economic abuse, and when do you draw out? No, this is where it has to stop, because you cannot educate the public. There's economic abuse when the person doesn't even know who they are.
Okay. No, thank you so much, Lapho Esisnozipo. We understand now that there's actually a background, or rather a trigger to this type of abuse. And the way that I see it, when economic abuse actually also triggers other forms of abuse, which can also be things of power, even the physical abuse has now been triggered because the person who has the money in the relationship feels entitled to the other person as if they are some sort of property, and they feed them, they clothe them, and they do otherwise. Ngiyabona lapha kuma chat box David Masego has mentioned in terms of MSMs, or rather lamanye key populations, they need a sense of belonging, hence they find themselves trapped in relationships, and they find it to be quite normal babanikete imali partners abo in order so that they feel they belong to me and I belong to them. And I can also see lapha chat box David Masego is also saying that he wants to make a comment, so I'll give this time now to David to also make a comment. Go ahead, David.
All right, thank you, Sake. I think one more thing that I wanted to add on is the issues of for MSM. We are talking about two men that both want to have control within a relationship. So these are two men. The mindset, some of them, they are men, both men. So both of them, they want to win control. You find that the other one who has got financial sustainability, and the other one is vulnerable when it comes to finance. Oh, there's this contradiction in terms of what the person who has got money wants. It's contradicting to what maybe the one who's vulnerable wants. So thus you find that some of them, I think it's also a business to decide then to have unprotected sex with someone without their will of power, because there's money involved. Because once I decide to have sex with a 20-year-old boy at my age, so and demand unprotected sex, so automatically the fact that the person given money, the person given drugs, which might be alcohol or whatever we can call it. So in one or the other, there are the issues that need to be uprooted. We need to start looking at these things. Is it fair enough for the younger MSM to engage in unprotected sex because of all these things that we are talking about? There's money involved. If there's an abuse, they need to report. They need to talk about it, because you find that yes, the younger MSM have agreed to have sex, but because that I've promised them to buy the sneaker tomorrow morning. So one or the other, I don't know what perhaps the Kenyan knows or one they would think about, but there are those issues that we just overlook and want to go deep on them. We feel like it's a normal relationship. Why it's an abnormal? There's something that's not going right within those relationships that we need to look into also.
Thank you so much, Lapo David Masego, for bringing that up. Asisithathe vele sihlome lapha kuye Wandile Gama, our psychosocial officer, to understand that as a professional medical assistant, or rather psychosocial support officer, who has worked closely in the Maki populations, what has been the issues? Vele kungabe kuliqiniso ekushoyo David ukuthi ama-key populations bona akukhanza ngathi kunormal lokuthi a-abuse-eke ngandlela abuseka ngawo, because they redeem, or rather they find their relationships to be considered abnormal ku-society. So ukhanza ukuthi abakhona la ma-channels la ukubika noma ama-channels ukuqondisa kokuthi baya-abuseka, or are they doing what is supposed to be done as a key population member in order to have their relationship endure for a longer time? Hello, Mr. Gama, are you still with us?
He seems lost, Akila.
Mr. Matalela?
Yes, Gama, thank you. I hope you got the question. Did you get the question that I was posing to you?
Partially, like maybe can you please come again?
Okay. Okay, I will repeat my question, Mr. Gama. Beguna indzaba lobolwa ngu-David umfangaseko lana ungitshela kokuthi among key populations uyayithola kokuthi they find it rather as a norm to be abused by their partners because they perceive their relationships to be abnormal. Uyayithola ukuthi kulukhuni kuphuma out ku-society kubika kokuthi as a key population member ngiyahlukubeteka because a relationship isn't regarded as something that is normal as even songe, or rather in society. So when being a professional psychosocial support officer who has worked with key population, has that been the case, and how exactly are these cases handled when it comes to key populations?
Thank you very much, Mr. Matlalela. Siyabonga kuma submissions from our colleagues. It is true what our colleagues are saying, or what they have said with regards to key populations. It is true that we are receiving cases in and out, and then Kulama cases that we receive, we find a lot of problems with the key populations. And as the marginalized populations, there is a lot that is at stake there. So what we are talking about, we would see a lot of them believe that kuba relationships and then to witness abuse, or to abused normal because they deem that whatever they are doing, or maybe my relationships or else maybe impilo labayiphilayo, or else babo, is a subject matter go society whereby society does not approve of what they are. So they then tend to think that, or they then tend to think, would see being abused is just normal for them because they have nowhere to report, and then like a cinema issues in Jela, whereby you find that key populations ikakhulu kunama cases lamaningi la akakhona kuwa reporter, or mhlambe la akakhona kuwa bring forward, so maybe we can talk about them because they feel that if maybe I come out, there's someone mhlambe lo tangibopha and then be incarcerated because society deem what I am as a taboo. So it is true that society is diverse. We live in a world of diversity. So it is very imperative for our people, it is very imperative for our people, especially our African society, to understand these things, that they are there, and then we are living with these people, and then they need our attention. They are our brothers, they are our sisters. And then in that way, we can then be able to curb the ripeness of gender-based violence. And then we can then be able to report these cases. And then Guma cases that have been reported, We then tend to give a psychosocial support, which comes in the form of counseling services. We do one-on-one counseling sessions with our clients. We do virtual sessions whereby we can call you at your own convenience so that we can talk about these issues. And then when we feel like maybe this issue needs to be taken further, and then we then consult our stakeholders, because there are a lot of problems. And then one important aspect of a psychosocial support officer or a mental health professional is to know when to refer and is to know where to refer. So with regards to our clients, we then refer those cases to people that we trust that maybe they are going to handle these cases with dignity. So that is what we normally do, Mr. Mahlalela. But then it is very true that maybe there is under-reporting, and then we, like about this campaign, we are then trying to increase the reporting in our populations, and then that they must come out of the closet, and then so that they can get help. Thank you very much.
I thank you so much, Mr. Kama, for bringing that up. And yes, thank you so much for bringing that one up. So, Vagele Babe. I think that in a way we have commercialized sex without even saying it, in the sense that we believe the partner who initiates the sex is supposed to pay for it. So we've commercialized sex so much such that we have also even commercialized our relationships. In some people relationships Mali, and they would even say that if he or she is not giving me a certain amount of money, such that the partner who is supposed to giving out the money in the said relationship often feels that they are under pressure to provide as a means to prove this is an issue that Sisno Zippo has actually touched on. My relationships have now been monetized, and they've been monetized from if I get myself educated, if I get a degree, and if I get a job, and I have now enough money to provide for someone, I then own that someone, because logo sekungena umumva emphakathini, logo sekwenda i-self-esteem yami iqine ndlela thile. But then I would like to also continue nema comments labhaliwe lapha ku comment section yami. Sisnozipo says, I think the first line is assistance, the first line is assistant in the triggers of abuse. Then assist people identify with self to be able to absorb that abnormal is not normal. And then we are talking about men often feel embarrassed to talk about their feelings, even if they know that they are abused, and they would rather keep quiet than to speak. What do you think? Ukuthi akakhoni ukukhuluma ngalezo timvu leto, uthola ukuthi thina madvodza siyabinza, indvodza ayikhali. That is the norm, ngilendlela esikhulise ngayo. Since bokhuluma indzaba tekukhula, thina sikhulise ngokuthi indvodza ke cha ayitedemi nje. As a coordinator of GBV in the health sector, what have you found to be the norms?
Okay, thanks. I think what Kanye is trying to bring up is, okay, Glamalanga send men dialogues on GBV for men. And this was informed by Google. There's a lot of GBV, there's a lot of violence. Am I still with you? Hello? Kanye, am I still with you?
Yes, Nozipo, please continue.
Wendy, at least your mic is on.
Hello?
We hear you.
All right.
Yes, it's no Zipo.
See, we are having dialogue. What is coming out is we need to change. I don't know how global can be influenced. We need to change this attitude of saying women and girls empowerment. It's right. They need to be empowered because we come from a patriarchal system. Now, you have empowered this woman. How have you empowered the men to cope with this empowered woman? That's the first breach. And then because men have been entitled to being in power, by patriarchy in itself. The patriarchy ithi ngiyindoda kufanele ngingakhali, esakhile say afanele ngingakwendi kokuthi kufanele ngingavoice kufanele ngingagcilateki, but ngiyagcilateka. Now the question is, are we still defining a man in the patriarchal system with the current evolution lesesinayo, or we are using ngokuthi mkhulu wami bekathi gogo wami bekathi bafana benda kwekuthi? Because now if you're empowering somebody to up-to-date versions, you need to make sure ukuthi the person latawukhuluma naye is empowered. So men really are suffering a lot. And I'll go back to what I said, key pops or general population. The problem is society has taught us if you have nothing, you are nobody. And then when it comes then to key population, it's a small society. Really, it's a small society that everybody figures and factors in their own opinion. It's being abnormal. So when you are being abnormal, you tend to identify with people with things that you feel are abnormal because now you're abnormal. So when you're key pop, what Mbuso was saying, utikhanza so out of budget ngoba ufuna uthengele sibani. Uyathi ukuthi you consider an abnormal person. So nalok abnormal kungabe kusaba abnormal la kuwe kuba normal ngoba you living in the environment of abnormality to an extent ukuthi ugcina so suicidal, so depressed. You're not seeing what's depressing you, when the source of depression is you have not identified yourself that I am not abnormal, I am a being. Ngoba noma singalo nabokhanye sithi sisebenta sisita key pops, if the key pop themselves cannot identify at a personal level, who are you before you are no Zippo? Are you a human being or you're just no Zippo? The moment you start using I'm no Zippo before saying I'm a human being, then it's where you are lost, because you are not no Zippo before you are a human being. When I was mentioning, we need to make sure people identify with themselves first. And once you identify with yourselves, you are able to do traces. What was abnormal, give me that has informed me who I am today. And when you trace all that together, you are able then to venture forward because you are aware of your vulnerabilities. You are aware of your strength. You are aware of your weaknesses. Then you need to then correct what is abnormal to normal. Other than that, utotikanza vela solo umisha kokuthi no, seku-normal, seku-right, sekunjani. When now you're living out of more than expectation, trying to please people. I have a brother who's in the key pops, but I've seen any vulnerability yakhe. Akadizi ngumhlolo. Leni adiza kangaka ngosambani yakhe. Kuye is if ngadize noziba batangibona yini. If ngadize utojola nami yini. And you're like saying, are you saying to yourself you're not a person enough because somebody might be affectionate to you?
All right. No, thank you so much, Sisnozi Polapo. And you also actually raised an important issue of where we should stop saying that we are empowering women and girls, because wonke umuntu needs to be empowered right now. And in fact, uma sikhuluma ngabo gender equality nabo gender equity, sesikhuluma ngato nayo indzaba leto. Then kunana indzaba yokuthi women are being empowered now, but no one is preparing these men for these now empowered women. Lapho khona bese utfola ukuthi now both genders are now being abused, and utfola ukuthi gender violence now plays a part in all the genders. And then uma sesibuka nanendzaba leshongo sikhanye ukuthi even sex itself has been monetized, and social media actually has a lot of influence ekufaka ekhathi bangani in a society, right? And recently people were asking the question ukuthi we have actually meme. People are making memes these days. So now Gulamalanga, it is actually considered moral to have sex. In fact, we used to consider it moral to have sex and expect nothing in return. But in Yalo Umbuto Sewuti, we are in a position where we would actually be much rather willing to have sex in exchange for imisebendi, in exchange for my promotions, in exchange for other things that are of certain value. Logo kusho ukuthi sex in itself has become a currency. I can now choose to have sex with a person in exchange for something that I need. But then ngingafuna ukuvala phansi isikhanye ukuthi now that sex has become a currency, how has that rather perpetuated the issue of gender-based violence? Because this currency now, it's no longer just an act lapho khona uthola ukuthi two people are coming together to have a sexual encounter. People come together to have a sexual encounter with certain expectations after the encounter has been dealt with.
Thank you, Usakile. I think the issue you go commercialize a sex without even saying it, when it puts people at a vulnerable position, because when you have sex with someone with the expectation that you will get a promotion or you will get a job or you'll get something, when that doesn't happen, then because sometimes you expect this without even communicating with the person. You just believe that if I have sex with a manager somewhere, he knows I need a job. And if I have sex with him, then I will get the job because I'm post available that is advertised by the company. So if I have sex with him, I'll get the job. And if logo sendegi, then that is when people will start shouting or coming out and saying, oh, that person abused me. When but kwathi kahle vele makalala nalo muntu or akazange our state ema interest yakhe ukuthi the reason I'm having sex with you is because I want a job in return. Because sometimes abamele nokuthi umuntu aze ampromise that, and that in itself is very wrong. Ukuthi you'll have sex with someone with the expectation that you will get a job, or others they will even manipulate their position of power because you know the person is a manager. Some they won't even say to you, by the fact that he's a manager or she's a manager somewhere, and when she wants to have sex with you or he wants to have sex with you, uyativele utovuma without a problem because uphethe application lotoyifaka lana kuze ukuthi uthole umsebenzi. So that becomes a problem because kukubeka at a disadvantaged place. You are not able to negotiate with the person ngokuthi no, I don't want to have sex with you because I don't want to have sex with you. I just want to drop this application here because I'm looking for a job. Ngiphethe application because I know I qualify for the job. Yabo. And then lo muntu loku advantage can do anything that he wants laguwe. He can have sex with you without using a condom. He can do all sorts of things to you because you're in a vulnerable position. Awukhona ukukhuluma ukuthi no, I don't want to have sex with you, or Noma, I do want to have sex with you, but I want us to have sex with a condom. Kuba likhuni ku-negotiator because the terms are not clear. So umuntu ikhanza sekasenkingeni, others get pregnant, and naso pregnant utikhanza sokhulisa umfana lobo ngakamplani ukhulisa umfana phinze nalo mfula kangamfuni because lo muntu bekangafuni kulala nawe. Ubona nje ukuthi ufuna umsebenzi and yena wafuna ichance ukuthi angalala nawe, or lo munye angalala nawe ulimale, and so many things can happen to you because utibeke in a position yokuba vulnerable. So awukhoni kuba at a platform or at a place where you can negotiate with the person ngoba utende waba vulnerable noma you are in a vulnerable position. Angingasho ukuthi utende waba vulnerable because lokunye i-vulnerability can make you do so many things. Vele you need this job, or vele uyayidinga le mali, and then someone will just say, I want to have sex with you because uyathuta unginiketa imali, then you give into that. And nasikhuluma ke nge abuse, it can present itself in so many in many forms, yabona, because like njengoba shito sisinozipho ukuthi lo munye ngalala nawe just because ufuna i-belonging. I'll make an example. Ukhanza ukuthi i-sex worker yathi sebendela vele itendele imali, but because ufuna cooperate kuleyo ndzawo leyo ukhona lo uthi no one work la kule ndzawo lena without kwengcala kimi. So, and that is not negotiable. So if you want to work in that hotspot, you will find yourself engaging in sex with that individual without even without consenting, because if you want to work in this spot, then you will have to have sex with me. with or without protection, my terms, my rules, yabona. So ngaleyo ndlela leyo, you are at a disadvantage point, you are vulnerable, you will do whatever. So utikanza exposed to so many things. Ungatikanza exposed to HIV, utikanza futhi exposed to physical violence, because people can do so many things to you without you consenting, or without even you knowing ukuthi okay nyalo I'm being abused, ngoba wena solo uncenga ukuthi I need this job and I'm hoping this person is going to give me this job, when this person is just using you for sex and nothing else.
All right. Thank you so much, Sis Kanye from the Ministry of Health. Ulubula yona inzaba ye-gender-based violence on our webinar today, and she is talking mostly about vulnerability, of which ngiyabona lapha kuma-chat box kokuthi Mr. Gama is saying vulnerability is one of the key drivers of gender-based violence in our society. Tingxoxo-ke tiyachubeka lapha ku-tinkundleni tekuchumana ku-social media, our social media page. People are saying that they thank you so much for this webinar because it is very informative, and indzaba ye-gender-based violence indzaba le-sensitive kakhulu kati letikhatsi tamnanje lapho khona thola ukuthi sihlaselwe ngayinfo yabo COVID-19, where a lot of people have been retrenched from lapho basebenza khona. Some are now getting half the income they used to get mhlambe emabhizinisini abo, because business has been slow due to tindzaba double lockdown, and other businesses have not really recovered. So gender-based violence is cut through the roof because of all those issues. But and we'll have the same with next week, next Thursday, same time. And panelists 1 minute each to say their words in conclusion to a topic at gender-based violence, emotional abuse, economical abuse among key populations and the general population as well. So Mr. Gama, PSS, can I please give you 1 minute to say your words of concluding the matter today?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mashalila, and I hope you can hear me. Siyabonga kakhulu for this webinar, and siyabonga kakhulu for this enlightenment. We hope and believe that there are a lot of things that are going to change, and then we will then maybe experience a higher reporting of these cases, because it is not a matter of keeping quiet, but then I think a lot of people lack the knowledge where would say like sinalotinsita they would maybe besingasitagala into go letting maybe lesinato singakhona ku reporter, and then see besicela nje ukuthi maybe singene ku our Facebook page lebibhale ukuthi asakheni ubuntu, and then we will get maybe a lot of the details on how we can get help. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gama. Let us move on to Sis Nozipho Mota. Siva, good Sis Nozipho Ingabe wena, what are your words of conclusion to today's topic and webinar?
Thank you so much for being included in this team. And I do believe that we have just teased the iceberg. We need to have these dialogues a bit more. And I am encouraging men or even women to actually vent out. You know, sometimes venting out, you don't need to talk to a person. You don't need to talk to law enforcement or social people or healthcare workers. Venting out, I've realized some people are very creative with memes. Whereas ideally someone is telling you the truth of what they are feeling. So if you vent out, it uplifts the stress, the stress or the depression, because you've made somebody laugh over your situation, but indirectly you have actually told somebody your situation, and others will actually make comments. I can relate. You're talking to me, but you've created it as a meme, like what they do with my TikTok. You don't need to TikTok in a video, but you can just write Emma word. It's venting. We need to access all platforms of making people vent without professional assistance.
All right. Thank you so much, Sis Nozipo. Sis Nozipo, kuluma inzaba venting, inzaba freedom of expression. People actually coming out to say how they feel about certain issues in society. Sis Khanyi, from the Ministry of Health, bengicela ukuthi uke usiphe nawo ukuthi emagama akho egcina kule nkulumo yanamuhla athini.
Okay, thank you so much, Mahlalela. I'd like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to be part of this webinar. I would like to encourage everyone to experience violence in whatever form to share with someone, just like Sisnozipo has said. If someone comes to you, I'm experiencing violence in this form. Let us learn to give an ear and not judge when someone is talking about his or her issue. I know sometimes we deal with things differently. Issues, or some of us emotional. It takes time for them to be emotional. So if someone comes to you asherisha problem yakhe akusho ukuthi songahambo ihlabela, but at least give that person a shoulder to cry on and support that individual yokuthi umlalele and ask the person ukuthi how do you want me to assist you. Angathi khanye nakafika kuwe asherisha ukuthi yathi I'm experiencing violence le kanje nako so shona so yoyifafata. Just ask Khanyi, how do you want me to help you, Khanyi? Umlalele Khanyi. Kulikhuni kulalela, listening is a skill. So ukhanza ukuthi esikhathini esiningi ungasho uNkhanyi ukuthi yathi I'm experiencing this problem. Lolo msherishela le problem athi mina ngingatibulala. So let us try and encourage people ukuthi baphumele baleni bangadili. Listen to whoever who is experiencing violence and assist them ukuthi bafolele usito. Umuntu assista ngekuthi excuse me, assista ngekuthi umsite athole isito, hayi kokuthi assiste ngekuthi uhambise i-issue yakhe embili undlusele kulabanye without consent from that person. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Khanyi. Sis Khanyi from the Ministry of Health. Now, gender equality. Sesifike emaphethini ayo iwebinar yethu yanamuhla. I would like to thank everyone who has participated today, from our panelists kuye Sis Khanyi, kuye Sis Nozipo, David Masego, Wandile Gama. Thank you so much, guys, for your continued support. Social media, there's women who are commenting it is hard time that their issues are actually brought up to platforms like Jangalawa to be discussed, and they thank you so much for being noticed and for being acknowledged for populations are still going to comment. We are seeing hashtags that say no to gender-based violence and the hashtag bring gender-based violence perpetrators to justice. Guys, thank you so much. This is now the end of our webinar. You guys have yourself a beautiful day and continue preaching the gospel that you are preaching. Hashtag Asakeni Ubumfu. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.